We're gonna go on a huge rant about the NES Classic, aren't we?
Yeah, we probably.
You know, I'm pissed off. God damn it. I'm gonna save it for the segment. We're talking about the tick first, right? You're gonna do the intro?
Yeah, I'll do the intro.
What episode are we?
22.
22?
Yeah. Just let this play a little bit. This is from Ninja Turtles. All right. We are live. How's everyone going? Well, let me just get rid of this.
You didn't do the intro.
I'm getting to it.
You didn't make the noise, Bundy.
Hold on a second. All right, here we go. We're peaking there. Okay, welcome to episode 20. Let me start over.
It's hot.
Yeah, it's hot. Welcome to episode 22 of Co-Operators. I am one of your hosts, Chucking Dice, and here with me is Augmented Biscuits.
Yep. It's also really hot.
It's really hot in California right now.
The heat wave is starting.
Yeah.
Even though it's what? End of August?
End of
almost
August.
September?
The funny thing is it began pretty cool.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it actually is freaking hot outside.
Stupid late summer.
Yeah, I've got 2 air conditionings going. One's in my bedroom and one's right here in my living room. We don't have central air in California either.
I blame... We actually have 3 AC window units running in our apartment.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Well, right now we have 2, but I think if it gets really hot, we have to turn the third one on. But I blame the eclipse.
The eclipse. Oh, shoot.
Did you watch the eclipse?
I did. I did check out the eclipse on
Monday.
Was it Monday? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Monday.
It was Monday. Yeah. But we didn't get totality here. We got about 70%.
Yeah.
One of our coworkers actually brought in one of those glasses. Basically, can't see anything except for the sun with those glasses.
Yeah, they're like Rolder's glasses.
Yeah, and then we just looked at it from our office because we could just see the sun from there, and we were just looking at it. It looked really cool. And we were walking around too because we were kind of next to like a sort of like a mini mall type area, and like people had like little setups to look at the eclipse, basically through like a piece of cork board and a couple of holes that was actually set up at Lowe's, and people were kind of looking at it that way.
Sounds lame.
Yeah,
I had glasses.
Yeah, the glasses actually looked way better.
My mother-in-law did a smart thing. She ordered them 2 months before the eclipse.
That is actually true because those things were sold out everywhere.
Yeah. She's like, oh, I got them on Amazon
Yeah.
2 months before they started. She's like, never sold out.
Yeah, whoever was selling those, they probably made a killing. Well, they have to because then after this, what?
I think the next one. Well, the next one's in 2024.
2024, yeah. And then, I mean, you could catch an eclipse out in sea somewhere, but you'd have to take like a pretty long voyage to look at it.
Just fly in a plane.
Just fly in a
go
plane.
somewhere.
Just look at, get out of your home. But let's get to it. We are talking about a couple different things. We're going to start out with, let me get rid of the cover here. We're going to start out with Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. You play this game. I don't really like any of the Uncharted. Oh, here's the thing. I started playing Uncharted 1.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really like it. And then I was kind of figuring out that, I don't know, it's just one of those games just not for me.
I think I can see that. I can understand. Uncharted is a game that if you don't like your controls fast and loose and kind of a little too loose, you won't like it. The controls for Uncharted aren't very precise.
All right.
The shooting's also a bit too loose. So when you go to shoot, precision is really a little difficult. But everything else about it, like the platforming, the voice acting, stories are pretty cool. I know when you were first getting your PS4, we basically told you it was like playing an Indiana Jones game, but you're not Indiana Jones, and you have no whip.
Right.
So it's like an adventure.
It didn't really seem like an Indiana Jones adventure. It seemed like, I don't know if you've ever seen this guy's movies, but this guy named Jim Warnowski. It seems like a movie that he made. So it's like a B movie version of Indiana Jones, which I do watch a couple of those films. But you know what it seemed like? What's that one? Romance in the Stone. That's what it felt like. Romance in the Stone.
That's a fair assessment. Yeah. Did you, at least you didn't pay for, well, it came with your PS4.
Yeah, it came with my PS4. I was trying to play it, and, I just couldn't, there was a part where I was, sneaking past guys, because I just got tired of the combat, and I was like, you know what, I don't want to kill these guys. I'm just going to skip through. And, I get to this gate that's just open, but my character cannot physically go through the gate. And then later I find out, I have to kill the 9 guys that I, snuck past. And I'm just like, why?
That's pretty wonky.
Yeah.
So, Uncharted Lost Legacy, for those of you who don't know, it's supposed to be the final Uncharted, the final. Well, they haven't really talked about anything after this, but this is the latest Uncharted chapter. This has nothing to do with Nathan Drake. This actually stars Chloe Frazier and Nadine Ross. For those of you who remember, Chloe, voiced by the always excellent Claudia Black. Her character was in Uncharted 2.
Erin Zan from Farscape?
Yeah. Her character was in Uncharted 2 and a small cameo in Uncharted, I believe, 3. She was completely absent from Uncharted 4. And Nadine Ross, and for those of you who played Uncharted 4, she was actually one of the villains in Uncharted 4.
Right.
So they both team up to actually hunt for a Indian treasure. It's the Tusk of Ganesh.
Tusk of Ganesh?
Yeah.
And I just keep on remembering that Simpsons episode where Homer...
Ganesh commands you.
Ganesh commands you.
I just like when Homer's like, when Lisa's like, Dad, those are for the elephant. Screw him! And she's just like, the elephant picks him up. They're in India hunting for the...
Ganesh.
They're in India hunting for the Tusk of Ganesh. The funny thing about this game is actually it's not at full price. Actually, it's not at the $60
How much
price.
is it?
It's actually I believe it's $30, but
$30.
But I could be wrong.
Really?
And it might be $40, but I don't think it's any more than $40. Actually, Chucky and Dice is doing some research, also known as Googling the price.
Googling the price. Here, let me
I
go.
believe it's $30, but
Okay, Google. How much is Uncharted: The Lost Legacy?
Here are some matching news articles.
I don't want to see that.
Why are we doing this?
I don't know. I like doing that with Google, but it never gives me what I want.
Because voice assistants suck. I turned off Siri so many times.
Well, this is Google. It's basically the same thing, but
it's horrible.
Uncharted Lost Legacy. Here we go.
Did you find it?
Yes, $39.88. So $40.
Okay, so it's $40. So this is $40 game. It's not full 60 price.
Right.
It's actually pretty short. There's a few things I enjoyed about this that they did. One, they actually did have a few kind of open world sections where you can hunt for different pieces of treasure. They also made a lot of the extra stuff after you complete the game really, really cheap.
Yeah.
So when you finish, usually with the Uncharted games, when you finish the game, you get these points for things you unlock and treasures you find. And with those points, you can buy things like unlimited ammo. You can buy guns that you can just turn on and off and on, things like that. And the other Uncharted games, they were really expensive. And this one, it seems it's actually really, really cheap. Like, I can probably buy all the guns just by finishing the game one time.
Oh, okay.
But so far, the highlight of the game is really the story. It's pretty well written. It's not a very huge epic story. It's a little more personable. Personal.
It's a personal story.
I know. It's a little more personal story. They do flesh out Chloe's character a bit, and they also flesh out Nadine's character. The writing between the two characters is really well done, and the voice acting is top notch. I mean, this is if you're a fan of Claudia Black and anything, then you probably really enjoy this. Really great voice acting. The game still looks really, 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 really beautiful. Same engine as Uncharted 4. But just like any other Uncharted game, if you played one of them, you've played this one already. I really went into this with just kind of seeing what the interaction was going to be between the two characters, because in Uncharted 4, you do end... Nadine Ross actually ends up leaving. Like, she's basically trying to kill you the entire game, and then she kind of just leaves you to die. She leaves Nathan and his brother to die. So it's interesting to see how they... Because this is supposed to take place after Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see... It will be interesting to see how they kind of reconcile that character. Like, she was essentially trying to kill one of your friends. Because as you know, in Uncharted 2, Chloe and Nathan are their friends, they're associates. They also have sex in Uncharted 2.
I did not know that because I didn't.
So
play that
and it's actually pretty funny. There's a few sections like kind of like the calmer moments where you're like driving around, because you actually do in the first half of the game, you do a lot of driving around, searching for different treasures, and they have these kind of conversations between them to kind of flesh each character out, and one of them is Nadine actually asks you like why she had sex with Nathan Drake, and because because Chloe's so chatty, she asked Chloe, she's like, so when you guys were together, how was it like? Like, did you both talk a lot? Did one of you talk and the other one stopped? Like, basically giving her shit, saying like you're chatty and so is Nathan, like Nathan Drake, like. How did that even go on? And it's pretty funny. It's like nice, real little moments like that makes it well. But again, if you played any other Uncharted games, you've played them all.
So basically, they sat around and said, "Where's Poochie?"
Pretty much.
Oh.
It's like, "Where's Poochie?"
Where's Poochie? That's another Simpsons reference. Watch The Simpsons.
Wait, which episode?
That was the one where Homer's the voice of Poochie, and then he was like making suggestions of how to make Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie a lot better. So anytime when Poochie's not on screen, one of the characters always says,
where's Poochie?
Where's Poochie?
I just remember him dying on his way back to his home planet.
Oh, yeah. I have to go now. My planet needs me.
So if you enjoy the Uncharted games, I would say check it out, especially for the interaction between the two characters. This game is a little difficult. Like, it's really... There's certain sections where you just get bombarded with things, but overall, it's fun kind of end cap to the series. Also, who knows if they're going to continue the series? I mean, I feel like...
I mean, this sounds like they're just testing the waters with
I think they are, and I actually would like to see them continue it, not with Nathan Drake.
All right.
Actually, these two characters, it was actually really fun playing with them.
Won't the fans be mad? And they're like...
I don't know. I don't think so. Although there was a small minority of people who got all pissy and cried out SJWs when the ending of Uncharted 4 had Nathan Drake's daughter.
Right.
And they were just like, we're never going to play an Uncharted game again because you shove this SJW bullshit down my throat by having, Nathan Drake continue with his daughter and, like, now you're going to make a girl, blah, blah. So, whatever. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, I would like to kind of see them continue this, but I would like them to take a break and refine the combat. Because everything about these games is fun,
right?
Except the combat is very, very, very loose.
Mm.
So that's one thing I would like them to do, is I would like them to really refine that and kind of get it down a bit better.
Right.
So I think of maybe taking a few years off would be great. I would also like to maybe even seeing them go to another IP, like maybe make a new IP. I know they have The Last of Us.
Yeah, I haven't played that either. I heard it was good though, but
it's good, but if you don't like the combat in Uncharted, you probably won't like the combat in
yeah, I actually own that game, but I haven't opened it.
The Last of Us is really hard though.
Right.
So I would say if you're gonna play it, if you want to just go through a story, just play it on the easiest difficulty, because it can be really fucking difficult at points, like unfairly difficult. But for the most part, it's a solid game. It's a real downer though. So I feel like they kind of put this out just
because it didn't cost that much. So
no, I feel like this was going to be DLC, and they decided just to make it like a standalone game. But I feel like this is kind of like an end cap to their Uncharted series, so they can move on to The Last of Us.
Yeah,
and then when that's done, or whenever they're done with that, they can move on. I think they might come back to Uncharted. Or they'll make another IP. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah,
they should make a Uncharted like phone game, and then make it like cost every if you want to
microtransactions.
Yeah, all these microtransactions.
Like a card game. Oh, I hate when they turn property into card games. I hate it.
Yeah.
So
well, if the card game was Final Fantasy's Triple Triad, I would totally eat that up.
Was that in Final Fantasy VIII?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite Final Fantasy. I don't know.
I know you love saying that because you like pissing people off.
People get so mad when I say that.
Exactly. This is what I love about Chuck and Dice is both him and I, we hate Final Fantasy VII, and we love saying that Final Fantasy VIII is the best Final Fantasy.
I like Final Fantasy. I like Squall. I like his little gun blade. I thought that was actually kind of cool. I liked how you hit the trigger button at the same time when you slashed with it.
And it blew up.
And it blew up.
Shot.
Yeah, it'll blow up people.
See, this is a man who knows his Final Fantasy. Because Final Fantasy VII sucked. Okay.
Well, 7. I mean, I guess people just like the story, but as much as Final Fantasy VIII is long-winded with their little summons, Final Fantasy VII is like twice as long.
Here's the thing. the one thing I've realized, or the conclusion I've come to with people who love Final Fantasy VII, who say it's like the greatest game ever, or who say it's like the greatest Final Fantasy, it's always the people who had never. Most of the people I've met who love Final Fantasy VII are the ones who've never played JRPG until Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah,
that was their first JRPG that they ever played.
Yeah,
and it was the greatest fucking thing ever. Because if you talk to people who are in general Final Fantasy VII fans, they always say Final Fantasy VI on the Super Nintendo is the best.
Yeah,
and they also enjoy
3.
They also enjoy 6/3.
Yeah,
or Final Fantasy 9. Because Final Fantasy 9 is a really good throwback.
It's a throwback to like the original storyline. Because in the first Final Fantasy, which I like the first Final Fantasy on PSP, it's about the crystals. And like 9 is like a kind of like a take on that. Is like it's about the crystals again. I'm actually playing Final Fantasy 4 because I never finished it on PSP. Just play the PSP versions. It just cuts through all the crap. I like that game too, just because it's like the characters are a little bit like they're not these like 4 warriors of light like the first like 3 games of the original Final Fantasy series. It's more that you start out as really a bad guy.
4 is the one with Kain, right?
Yeah, Kain and Cecil.
Okay,
those are the weirdest names. Your main character is Cecil. He's like a dark knight,
and then
becomes a paladin.
Is there someone named Terra in it, or is that?
That's 6.
That's 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
6 is a great game. I like 6 too.
Lydia, right?
Yeah, Lydia.
There you go. I remember. I remember 4. I played the kind of like remake on DS.
Right. Yeah, that's actually a good remake too. Like like so I've been playing 4 a little bit. Actually, my favorite Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy Adventure for Game Boy.
Now you're really pissing people off.
Yeah, I know. Well, I like that because, like, I realize that that's the beginning of the Sword of Mana series, and but like the Game Boy one is not turn-based. It's very similar to like Legends of Zelda. The difference is that
I don't think I've ever played any of the Sword of Mana games.
The adventure is really fun. I've never really played the SNES games. I think. Like,
is Secret of Mana part of that series?
Yeah, Secret of Mana. Yeah.
Is that where the combat is all action?
It's all action.
It's just
based.
button matching, right?
Yeah. So it's action. You have to you basically have to maneuver like Zelda, and fight your enemies.
I might check that out because I know they're doing they announced a remake for
they're
PS4.
Apparently they're doing another one. But what I liked about it, at least in Final Fantasy Adventure when it came out here on Game Boy, is that you had all these different types of weapons and they could do different things. Like the axe could chop wood, and you had a spinning thing that can chop down like I guess grass or moss or whatever. And it actually was kind of a downer storyline at the end because the person that you're trying to save ends up sacrificing herself to become the Tree of Mana. Spoiler alert. But you guys aren't going to play that game.
Yeah, everybody talks shit about Final Fantasy Adventures.
But I love Final Fantasy Adventures. It was just a simple game, just a simple.
It was closer
premise.
to Legend of Zelda than.
Yeah, it was closer to the Legend of Zelda, but also had sort of a party system. You basically just had a partner that just kind of did their thing. Like if it was a magic guy, he would just shoot magic missile everywhere. But it's a fun game. I mean, the only thing
I put my headphones on.
Oh, you should. I got nice headphones for both of us now.
I know I could have brought mine. I actually bought headphones.
Well, now you don't have to bring them now because we have these 2 nice ones now. Well, let's move on.
At the end, let's just cap this off real quick.
What's up?
Final Fantasy VII sucks.
Final Fantasy VII sucks. Yeah, screw Cloud.
Yeah.
Speaking of games and retro games. We're going to talk about the Super Nintendo Entertainment System Classic Edition.
You know this was coming after our goddamn rant about the SNES class, the NES class.
Yeah. So pre-orders went out for this. I actually did not know about the pre-orders until Augmented Biscuits texted me the morning of, and I was just like, you basically said, hey, did you try and get any of the SNE classes? And I was like, no, I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
But apparently that happened around 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. So Kotaku wrote an article, and they wrote an article, and Best Buy released their pre-orders at 1:30 in the morning.
Right.
I think it was 1:30 in the morning Pacific time, and then Amazon released their pre-orders at about, I heard 2 things. I heard 4:30 and I also heard 5.
Why would they do that?
And the reason why they did that, and apparently the reason why they did that is because they didn't want their site to get bombarded.
Right.
And another thing I heard about the Amazon was they actually put a fake page for like a fake kind of landing pad page for the SNES Classic, and they actually had a different one categorized under like Nintendo digital games.
Right.
Because they wanted to deter all the bots and stuff. None of that fucking happened.
Apparently that didn't work.
Because this thing, the pre-orders for this thing sold out immediately. Not only that, ThinkGeek had pre-orders, but they bundled it with something else that was like, that basically made the pre-order like $400.
Yeah, they did that with the NES Classics now.
Like $300, $400. Like you're essentially getting the Classic, plus you're getting something from ThinkGeek that's like an extra $150, $200. So it's like ridiculous.
All right.
My story was I missed the pre-orders, and for some reason in my mind I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to these sites and just constantly refresh.
Right.
I was like, because if Amazon and Best Buy put their stuff up, I know Target is probably gonna put their stuff up, and possibly Walmart. So I, like an idiot, only did Target, but I was constantly refreshing. Like I even signed in with my account. I put in my credit card info to make it quicker. What killed me though was I was doing this at work, so I was pressing S5. And then I went to go do some work, and when I went back to the site, I saw that it was on sale. I clicked, put in my
purchase,
put in my cart. The site locks up, right? I go back to the page. I put in my cart. I'm going to check out. I'm putting my credit card information, or I'm actually re-signing in because I guess it was there for a while, so it signed me out. Essentially, I did everything, and all I had to do was place order. And right when I placed order, it kicks me back to the landing page and says some error has happened.
Look at that.
So that's how close I was. I was actually pretty close to buying it. And at that point, I said, I'm done. And this is what really pisses me off is I hate the fact that I want this.
Yeah.
And I hate the fact that Nintendo is doing it this way. And honestly, at the end of it all, it's just like, I mean, yeah, people are going to say, oh, you can just do a Raspberry Pi and build your own. You can just do this. You can do that. You can just emulate it, blah, blah, blah. At the end of it all, it's like, it's a fucking $80 plastic shell
right.
that has all these games on it, where all I have to do is plug it in.
Yeah.
I understand that I hate myself for wanting this, but it's also like, it'd be cool. But at the same time, I'm basically done with Nintendo. Like, not done with them, but I'm just like, it's just frustrating to me that they're doing it this way. But again, who knows? They might have more later. I mean, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. They do this all the time. They did this with their Amiibos. They did this with their other NES Classic. They basically did that, with their Switch. They just do this kind of scarce, like, stocking. It's like this scarce, and then they build this sort of, weird, like, limited demand. And I get it. They want to they want to sell out with all their stuff, but they have market research on this. The NES Classic, everyone wanted it because it was just a simple thing where you plug it in. It's a great gift idea. That's what they have. They have to kind of look at it like that. It's a small purchase for someone just to buy and then maybe give to their kids or give to someone who's a big fan of this stuff. And I think it's like the perfect kind of gift idea. And it's not that much money. Like $80 for the SNES Classic isn't that much. I get it. Yeah, people can do the Raspberry Pi thing, but if I handed someone like, here's a Raspberry Pi, assemble it yourself, they're going to look at it and they're like, well, okay, I'll just kind of, depending on that person, but like, let's say the casual person who just likes Nintendo games, they'll probably put it aside and like not put it together. Or you can buy the ones that like are already put together, but they're roughly $100 and something.
Yeah, there's people who sell the 3D printer plans for the cases. There's people who actually sell the cases already made, and they'll just charge you like, I think the cases by themselves they'll charge you like I think $20-$30. And then there's people who actually build them with the Raspberry Pi, and they charge you like $100 or something.
Which I mean that's good and all, but like then you have to like know how to like where to grab the ROMs, how to put them on there, and some people just don't know how to do that. I mean, I know how to do it because I have my own little emulated systems and stuff like that, but I still want this. I like it. I like the fact that it's a small Super Nintendo. And, like, here's the other thing. I've never actually owned my own Super Nintendo. I really wanted one as a kid, but, like, my parents never got it for me. And I was too young to, have a job and buy it on my own. So I just kind of was always going to people's houses and playing, their Super Nintendo. I really wanted this one because, I never had it as a kid. And, like, it would have been cool to, like, get it in my hands, and finally I have a Super Nintendo with all the games that I want on it. I don't care for, I like the actual list of games that it had on there. But, again, I'm kind of being denied the Super Nintendo once more, the second time in life.
And I mean, would you agree that you also hate yourself for, like, being angry at the fact that you can't get this?
I mean, yeah, but, like, at this point, I think I have the right to be angry because, like, I wanted the NES Classic, the one that came out last year, and obviously I couldn't get that either. And I tempted to basically, go to like the Walmart or Target in Lancaster, which is about an hour away from where we live, and like just wait in line there because I hear that it's actually easier to get your hands on this kind of stuff at a place where not a lot of people will kind of be looking for that kind of thing. Although I question that. Like, Johnny Five actually is putting that in my head. It's like, we can always go to Lancaster and grab
He's
it.
Full of shit.
And, like, grab it, off the shelf. And, like,
does he want one?
He wants one, too, because he's a big fan of this. And, like, he's got a lot of good memories about the Super Nintendo.
I want one,
He's
too.
a huge Street Fighter 2 fan.
I think we should definitely... I think the three of us should go camp out.
I want to do it. Like, I wouldn't be even... I would even go as far as, you know what? I'm going to go get a hotel room in Lancaster, sleep overnight, and then go over there.
When does it come out?
September 29th, I think.
Oh, we still got an entire month.
We got a month to think about it, and I'm like, I'm really thinking about it because I know that I'm gonna be shit out of luck here because everyone goes to the Walmarts and Targets around here, and like I'm never, and that line's gonna be really long. But if we do go to somewhere where it's a little bit out of the way and there's not as many people, and maybe there's not as many people into video games in that location, at least an old video game system like this, and we might be in luck. But then again, you also have to fight, the scalpers who want this. I'm so tired of scalpers.
I mean, I feel like we could do this. Yeah. You can go get it. But I also feel like there's gonna be a shitload of people there.
That's the thing. It's like you always have to kind of like. That's what you have to look out for.
Yeah.
And then, but you just try and get there early, get in line.
So and it sucks too because I know there's people who still want the Switch. And those are apparently still hard to find. Apparently
someone, a friend of mine at work actually saw one in the wild at Target. And he actually asked me, do you want the Switch? I'm like, not right now. There's not really a lot of games I want.
Yeah. A coworker of mine, he actually got the Switch. He just got the Switch.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he basically just said, yeah, there's nothing I want to play on it.
Right.
He hasn't bought Mario Kart 8.
Right.
He hasn't gotten Legend of Zelda. I forgot what he mainly got it because he wanted to play Mario Odyssey, but he's like, looking at Mario Kart 8, looking at Legend of Zelda, he's like, and then looking at all the other games, he's like, there's not really anything I want to play. Plus, he's like, I don't know what their virtual console ideas are.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm waiting for that to come out, and I'm actually probably going to buy the 2DS, the new Nintendo 2DS, before I buy a Switch because first of all, my 3DS is kind of like, I bought it used, and it's not working very well, and I want to like just put it on something more of a stable system, and the 2DS seems to be the most stable right now. Also, it's not that expensive for a newer console, I guess.
Do you think Nintendo's doing this just to drum up interest in the Switch?
For the Super Nintendo Classic? No, because like anyone who gets the Super Nintendo Classic would have no interest in playing the Switch.
And that's what I feel like why they're doing limited quantities of this stuff.
Right.
Is that they want people to talk about Nintendo, but they don't want to deter them from buying the Switch. So I think that was the big.
Right.
That was one of the reasons why they discontinued the NES Classic. Was it came out around the time the Switch came out, right? And more people were talking about the NES Classic than the Switch. So Nintendo was like, well, we want people to buy the Switch because we can nickel and dime them. So they I feel like that was possibly one of the reasons why they might have discontinued the NES.
Yeah, but like, why even come out with it anyways if you're going to do that? Just, I mean,
like delayed until after you get good sales of the Switch. Basically.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're that like paranoid about your own system, then why are you coming out with stuff that people want from you? If anything, they should be happy because a lot of the licenses that they have on the Switch are probably going to have games that are that started on the Super Nintendo or even before that. Like, Zelda, for example, that's a Link to the Past. I mean, everyone's going to have fond memories of playing Zelda. Maybe they'll go and check out the new one. Or, maybe they'll grab the 3DS version of it, which actually was a really good game.
Yeah.
It was short, too. And that's why I liked it.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, Nintendo says that they're not going to have the same mistakes. They're going to have a lot more quantities, and they're going to do more pre-orders, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just
I have not seen... like, the only pre-order before this was the one that Walmart did, and they canceled it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, someone actually, put it up there without us knowing.
So we probably won't get this, just to let you guys know now.
I'm tempted to do that Lancaster thing. And no one else listens to it. The only person who listens to this is probably Vic. And he's not going to go to Lancaster to get this thing.
Vic, we need you to go to Lancaster for us.
Vic, he's from Jersey, right? Vic, get a copy of this for us. We'll give you a prize. I guess, no, that would... I don't know what else we could get him, but...
we can just give him money for getting this thing for us.
Yeah, well... Scalp it to us, give us a good price.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scalp it to us for $100. You can make a $20 profit.
Right. I mean, I'm just jazzed that it actually has Earthbound on it.
Yeah.
That's so unusual because Nintendo has never wanted to release that game.
One thing
ever, and I'm one of the Earthbound maniacs that love that game.
One thing I would like to see them do is the Star Fox and Star Fox 2.
Yeah.
If they were to release that on the Virtual Console for either the Switch or for their Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah,
Nintendo 3DS.
Star Fox 1 is really hard to emulate on an emulator.
Because of the FX graphics.
Yeah, the FX graphics. It always works really slow. I have a PSP that's geared to do emulation, and it never plays that game correctly.
Yeah.
The music's all screwed up. But I really want this thing.
We probably won't get one. Let's go to Lancaster right now. Let's line up.
Line up right now. Put camp up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Moving on for our Tears of Sorrow.
All right. We are sad to share that yet again another horror director icon has passed away. So far, it's been Wes Craven. That was the one that happened a year ago, a couple years ago now.
Wes Craven?
Wes Craven's dead. Yeah. He passed.
Wasn't there one recently?
Well, George Romero.
Yeah.
But now...
No, John Carpenter's still alive, right?
He should be dead, but he's still alive.
He's kicking.
Well, he's the one that I thought would die the first, but unfortunately, who we lost is Tobe Hooper, who directed Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and also Poltergeist, which a lot of people believe that Stephen Spielberg directed. But no, that was actually credited to Tobe Hooper. Steven Spielberg actually produced it. This is all the sort of classic horror directors are basically going away. I think the people that we have left are, I guess, Sam Raimi, what's his name, Sean Cunningham, who directed the first Friday the 13th, and I guess Stuart Gordon. I don't know if it's an age thing or something, because Stuart Gordon is way old, and John Carpenter looks like he's in his 80s, but they're both still alive. And Tobe Hooper, I guess there hasn't been a press release on how he died or the reason why he died, but yeah, he suddenly passed away yesterday. So rest in peace, Tobe Hooper. Some of the movies that he directed were very memorable in history. First Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for example, was 1975. I wouldn't call it, in general, a slasher film. I mean, yes, there is death in it and such, but it doesn't have as much gore as you think. It's graphic in its violence, yes, but it's more of the stuff that you don't really see that happens in front of the camera. One of the scenes that always made a mark in me is when Leatherface grabbed that one guy and he shut that sort of sliding door, and you basically don't know what's happening beyond that door, but it's bad. And he kind of created almost these tense situations that didn't really need a lot of in your face gore kind of thing. I mean, yes, it did have some some very like explicit scenes, but it wasn't as if like the gore was like like Lucio Fulci, like someone getting their eye poked out or whatever. Yeah, and during the finale of that scene, there the final girl is strapped to a chair, and like they're trying to get this like 90-year-old grandpa to like hit her with a hammer, and she's just in this terrible situation. You don't know how she's going to get out because there's seemingly no way to get out of that situation. That's what I remember from that film. I don't know. What are your thoughts of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I've never seen it.
You never seen the 1st one?
I've never seen the
No.
original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You've
I did see. Actually, I haven't really. I'm looking at his filmography on IMDb, and
About Poltergeist.
never seen Poltergeist.
You never seen Poltergeist?
Nope. Never seen Poltergeist.
You should watch Poltergeist. That's actually a really good one.
He apparently did a few episode of Amazing Stories and an episode of Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know which ones. Never seen Salem's Lot.
Oh, that's based on a Stephen King book about vampires.
Yeah, I've never actually
Alright.
seen his stuff.
I liked Life Force. That's one of my favorite ones that he did.
Never seen it.
It's about space vampires. It's
I don't
really
think
cool.
I've ever seen anything he's directed except from possibly Tales from the Crypt and Amazing Stories. He did a few episodes of Nowhere Man. He did one episode of Dark Skies. Oh, he did an episode of Perversions of Science, which I actually watched. I probably don't remember which one it is. Yeah, I have nothing to add. I've never seen any of Toby. Unfortunately, I've never seen any of Toby Hooper's movies.
All right, I would
Or
suggest
Toby
you
Hooper.
actually do check out. You like Stranger Things and the television show, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I would say that if you guys don't know anything about Toby Hooper, I recommend you check out. Texas Chainsaw definitely, just because it was just such a very raw film. I'd suggest that you check out Poltergeist, because it's one of those 80s era films. It's got a very similar feel to if you were watching E.T., if that makes any sense, because it seems like it takes place in the same neighborhood, which I guess technically is true, is because they shot both movies in the same neighborhood. So I always pictured that they both existed in the same sort of cinematic universe, since that's a big thing now.
Yeah.
Because if you kind of think about it, if you kind of it was always funny to me that like a person who let's say there's a kid that lives on the block and goes to school and it's like, oh, did you hear all the weird stuff happening at Carol Ann's house with with all the the ghost and the big thing at the I'm not going to ruin it for you, but with the family and all that stuff, and it's like, yeah, that was pretty weird. But did you check out that alien that the government was hiding and made those kids' bikes fly and that's a similar feel. Apparently, Spielberg was directing E.T. and then visiting the Poltergeist set a lot because he had to actually choose which one he was going to direct. So he handpicked Toby Hooper to direct Poltergeist since he had experience in horror, and then he worked on E.T. But a lot of rumors is going around is that Spielberg worked on both films a lot, and a lot of people thought that there was a tension between both Toby Hooper and Steven Spielberg on who was directing Poltergeist, but it turned out Hooper kind of said in an interview, it was no, I was learning how to make a film with this guy. It's he's the producer, and it was a project that was kind of sort of close to home with him. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I was taking his advice, but ultimately, yeah, I did direct the film. But yeah, I was, I wanted to hear what Spielberg had to say and such, and how to present this material. There is a very ghastly scene that happens in the first Poltergeist film that I would say is 100% Hooper. But it is a horror film that essentially no one really dies in it. In fact, I don't think there is not a single death in Poltergeist, but it's just a scary ghost tale. And I recommend it because Craig T. Nelson's in it, who's Coach.
Yeah, Coach.
Yeah, and he's great in that film. He is awesome in that film. If anything, check out that film for Craig T. Nelson.
I do like
Yeah.
Craig T. Nelson.
Yeah, but it's kind of a weird. I mean, when I saw it as a kid, I thought it was kind of weird because and I'll spoil a little bit. During one of the scenes, Craig T. Nelson is smoking weed with his wife, and they have a family and they live in the suburbs. And as I grew up, I realized that they're from the '60s where they used to do that, and they just never gave up the habit.
Yeah.
But But I thought that was kind of cool when I was growing up. When I was young, I thought they were just smoking a cigarette.
You're like, man, Craig T. Nelson is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. But yeah, and there's a lot of like sort of like it was always said that film was also cursed because like a number of crew members died while making that film,
Yeah,
and also the second film as well.
Yeah.
The
The little girl died, right?
little girl died. There's a character who plays her older sister. Name escapes me right now, but let me just look that up through the miracle of the internet here. Older sister was like Mia something or other. Or, oh yeah, there it is. Dominic Dunn. Yeah, she was apparently killed by her boyfriend at a very young age, or I guess ex-boyfriend. So a lot of people believe that with with such the fatality rate of all the people, that that the film was like cursed by an actual poltergeist. More people died in the making of this film than the people who actually died in the fictional setting of the film. But it's a really good movie. I actually really did dig the second film as well. That film is also very terrifying. They left a lot of like impressions on me, as I watched more and more horror films. But that's really good. I also like Life Force, not based on the old Nintendo game, but it's this really huge film about space vampires. Like this huge kind of like structures in space, and they send astronauts to go investigate it, and they find that it's got human beings in it, and they bring one back to the planet, and you find out that she's like basically a person who sucks people's life force from their bodies. So it's kind of like like a vampire story. And it's kind of known for just having this naked woman from this, basically she's sort of the space vampire, just walking around. She was like a ballerina, and she looked great, I guess, without any clothes on. She was just kind of walking around, killing people, like sucking their life force out. That film has a lot of it's to me, it's like production value is amazing. The actual film is a bit long, I guess. Some people find it a bit long, but it's actually a really good movie, and like something that you should check out because you don't really see a movie that huge about such a weird subject. One of the later movies he did was a remake of The Toolbox Murders, which I enjoy, and it's one of those films that I kind of enjoy more than the original. The original Toolbox Murders is, to say lightly, kind of disjointed. It has some good performances in there. I think Cameron Mitchell plays the actual Toolbox Murderer. It's actually really known for this shower scene with an actress who later on becomes, I guess she was taking more of a bath, but she later on becomes like a porn star. But it's a very disjointed film. There's actually one good sequence, and then not much after that. The remake to Toolbox Murders has to do with a murderer that is more of a creature and less like a real life serial killer. It involves like this, I guess, is a stillborn infant that her mother died, but he made his way out of the womb. And ends up like basically hiding in the walls of this apartment complex, killing all these people in the apartment complex. That was later in his career, and I thought it was really good. Some people did not like it though. They thought he lost a step, but I thought it actually looked. It's a pretty good film that like kind of hits all the sort of suspense beats of a horror film. Beyond that, I know that he did, I think a movie called Funhouse, and then he did another one, was it called Eaten Alive? Yeah, there it is. Not a big fan of Eaten Alive. The Funhouse, I hardly remember. But... Oh, here's one. Invaders from Mars. That's another remake that he did. The original film is like a 1940s, 1950s science fiction movie about a little boy who basically says that aliens took over his parents. The remake is about the exact same thing, but there's a lot more creature effects. the original does have some really good special effects, but the 1980s version has like just huge like creature effects, people in suits. They have these aliens. The little boy like contacts like the army, and basically they come in to help out exterminate all the aliens. That's actually a really good film. It's a very underrated film. I found it terrifying as a kid, but I don't know how it holds up today. I mean, I actually do own it. Should like put it in someday and watch it.
Which one?
Invaders from Mars.
That one sounds familiar. I think I might have caught that on TV. Or something.
That's how I caught it. Basically, the aliens have this like sort of, what is it? They like to eat copper or whatever. I think that
sounds familiar.
Yeah, they either eat copper or copper is poisonous to them. I think they actually like to eat copper and such, and like that's why they're on the planet. It's a real fun movie. Again, if you're a fan of Stranger Things, then you might actually like this movie just because it has like the same sort of retro feel. Also involves children embroiled in like something that's beyond supernatural. But he's a great director. Not all of his movies made a lot of money, but he was always kind of like working. Later on, his like career started sort of winding down and such, and then he was like kind of giving away his property so that it could be remade into movies, and he'll got a percentage of that. Obviously, the most popular one is his Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It got remade several times.
They like won't stop remaking that fucking movie.
Yeah, they won't stop remaking it. Like, I mean, it's a Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a popular little license, and people will go watch anything that's named Texas Chainsaw Massacre, except for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4, which was a terrible film.
Is that the one with McConaughey in it?
It's got McConaughey. It's got Deborah from WWE. She made a cameo. What was her name?
Renee Zellweger.
Yeah, Renee Zellweger's in it. It's a weird film with all these stars, but it's an awful, awful, awful film. Toby Hooper had nothing to do with that film.
That movie's great. What are you talking about? That's like the Final Fantasy VIII of
Final Fantasy VIII of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. That's the Final Fantasy VIII.
I'm gonna say Texas Chainsaw 1 is Final Fantasy 7, so I hate it already.
Nah, I wouldn't say that.
I'm gonna say it just to piss everybody off.
Okay,
all right, what else we got? What else we got?
We got.
What else do we have on the agenda to talk about? I forgot.
I think we're talking about this new series. Give me 1 second here.
New series, the Tick.
The Tick. Hold on, I forgot to put.
I'm excited this came back. Actually, I'm excited. I never watched. So for those, just for those of you who don't know, the Tick started off as a comic book. It became an animated cartoon series on Fox. What would you say, like early 90s, mid 90s? Mid 90s?
Sort of mid 1994.
Okay, yeah, like early mid 90s.
Yeah.
And then it actually became a live action TV show with what's his fucking
Patrick
name?
Warburton.
There you go. And that was what, early 2000s?
Yeah.
Late 90s, early 2000s?
Wasn't a big fan of that show.
I never watched it.
Yeah.
I heard good things about it.
There's nothing good about that.
Okay. I didn't watch it.
I thought Patrick Warburton was a good choice. I think the guy who directed it was the first episode was the guy who directed Men in Black. It just wasn't a very good pilot, and then they like decided to like make the entire series, and all they did was really copy all the characters from. I didn't actually like the fact that they did copy all the characters from the cartoon, but they just changed their names. Like instead of Deflator Mouse, it's Batmanuel, and I think instead of
American Maid,
a maiden, yeah, it was like Lady Liberty or something like that.
Oh.
It's just that it just wasn't really that funny.
Okay,
it was maybe funny for I don't know your grandfather.
See, I never watched it. I love the cartoon show, though. The cartoon show.
Well, the cartoon show was awesome. I love that. Yeah, the animated series was great, and I was like disappointed that it ended around season 3.
Yeah, the cartoon show was so like there was a lot. It was just such a strange cartoon, but it was also funny. There was a lot of like really outstanding moments from the cartoon, like the one where he fights essentially the Tick, but he's like a snot version of the Tick.
Oh, yeah, Barry.
No. Remember he gets sick.
Yeah.
And the bad guy goes like, give me a tissue sample
like
of the tick.
Flargazogs,
Yeah, and he brings them like an
Yeah.
actual tissue box.
The
like,
alien, yeah, and he creates like a snot version of the tick.
And he fights him.
That's I like that one because the alien actually has a roommate.
Yeah.
And they like comes in just eating chips, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's my roommate. He's a little weird, but he always pays the rent on time."
Yeah. Just like every other roommate.
Yeah.
Just like, that's the kind of roommate you want.
Yeah,
though.
that is the one roommate you want.
They pay their rent on time.
Yeah.
They pay their bills on time, but you know they kind
they
of keep to themselves.
They keep to themselves because you don't want them around you.
But then again, you also want to be afraid with the ones who keep to themselves because they might murder you in your sleep.
No, I in my sort of like history of having roommates, I feel that, and I've had plenty of now at this point. The ones that like kind of keep to themselves are actually a lot better than the ones that are a little outgoing and want to tell you about. I've had like a bunch of crappy roommates. I mean, I've had good roommates and I've had crappy roommates. And like some of the roommates I've had, like they want to sit there and like talk to you about their like life dreams and goals and stuff like that. And there's a point where you just don't care. And it's like I haven't had like psychotic roommates. I've had friends who had psychotic roommates though.
That's the worst.
That's the worst, yeah.
And then there's like you were saying the episode where he fights it's the tick versus the tick, and its name it's Barry.
Barry, yeah.
And then I think any episode with Chairface Chippendale.
I love the fact that he tried to so Chairface Chippendale tries to sign his name on the moon. He gets to CH and A, and then
it just says Cha.
Yeah, it says Cha, and then the tick obviously stops him with American Maiden, and then every other episode after that, you always saw that on the moon.
Yeah,
which I thought was great.
And then what's even better is they had a follow episode where
they try to get rid of it.
They try to fix it.
Yeah.
They try to fix it, so they put bombs on it.
Yeah.
And the tick gets blown up to Galactus. Remember their version of Galactus?
Yeah, like Omnibus or whatever.
Yeah, and he basically is kind of like helping him out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to Earth and he like wants to eat the Earth.
Yeah.
But then Tick has to convince him not to eat the Earth, which is like, oh, we have really cool things like gift baskets and stuff like that. So he ends up taking a bite out of the moon.
Yeah. And
so they fixed their chub problem on the moon, but it's like a giant like.
Well, there's a bite on it, and they only got rid of the C, so it just says "ha."
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's on every episode after that. That's why I love that cartoon.
It was just such a weird, bizarre, it's just a really just strange but funny cartoon. And then the live action show, which I didn't watch, but now Amazon actually in one of their pilot seasons, they released the pilot for their version of the Tick. It's actually written, and I think it was also directed by the creator of the Tick.
Oh, Ben Edlund did it?
Yeah. And the producers are actually Barry Sonnenfeld and Patrick Warburton.
Oh, Sonnenfeld's on it.
So they produced it. The creator of the Tick wrote it and directed it, and it was actually really good. It was really funny, really good. I actually really love the guy that they got to play the Tick.
Yeah.
Peter.
I don't know any actors' names now.
Peter Sergewa. I don't know.
Well, he reminds me. Yeah, Peter's. Wow, that's a last name.
Peter Sir. He was. He's actually been a few things. He was in Shaun of the Dead.
Serafinowskowitz.
There you go, Serafinowskowitz.
Oh, the voice of Darth Maul.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. He was actually in. He was like legitimately the voice of Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Like in the movies.
Yeah, he was in the movies. Yeah,
so
and also I think in Star Wars Rebels.
So
as well.
they didn't use what's his name? Ray Park.
Yeah, not
Park?
not the guy from Ghostbusters. No.
Or no, what's his name? God damn it.
Yeah, I think it's Ray Park.
Ray Parker.
Ray Parker.
Oh.
Toad.
Yeah.
Do you know what happens when you?
No, we don't talk about that.
So
he's a Tick. He's actually a really good Tick, and he's actually really funny.
Yeah.
You'll recognize him from Shaun of the Dead. He was actually Sean's like.
He was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
He was in Guardians of the Galaxy. He was in Shaun of the Dead.
He was Andy's best friend from England in Parks and Rec.
Yeah, he's actually a really good actor. And I'm happy to see him in the role like this big and like in the main role because it's actually really cool.
Well, he personifies that Tick from the cartoon.
Yeah.
Like they ask him questions about, also from the comic book as well. And like I would say that this show is very close to the comic book because.
Did you read the comic book?
Yeah, I used to read the comic book way back in the day.
Is the comic book? Did the cartoon follow the comic book pretty well, like as far as tone and stuff?
Well, I would say the cartoon, even though it was a bit like sort of like the cartoon was mature for being on Fox Kids. But I don't think it followed its more darker tones.
Okay.
Like in the beginning, they had a character in the comic book called Oedipus, who she was basically a take on Elektra, and there was like a scene where like she gets attacked by ninjas and like they actually like kind of cut her and like injure her, and then Tick just goes like Tick just goes nuts on the ninjas. I mean, he doesn't kill them, but he's like throwing him into car windows and stuff like that, and he gets a little bit more rowdier than he usually does. And, and there's like parts where like the Tick comic book kind of got a little dark, especially when involving this character named Chainsaw Vigilante. But I would say the cartoon was sort of like a more livelier version of that, where it's more Adam West, kind of interpretation of that character, even though that character existed in the comic book. Rather than having like a Dick Tracy parody, like they did have Chairface Chippendale, but they had like a Dick Tracy type character help him out, not American Maiden. American Maiden was just made up for, I think, the cartoon, along with Deflator Mouse and a lot of the other superheroes, because not all of them appeared in the comic book. Chainsaw Vigilante definitely did not appear in the cartoon.
So you said this show falls more closer to the comic book.
Like especially like they have a character on here who's like an anti-hero type named Overkill, which I find hilarious because there's like 9 million Overkills in comic books. It's like such a like a 90s superhero type name. But he reminds me of a combination of Chainsaw Vigilante and another character that was both in the comic book and the cartoon named Big Shot, who liked guns, and basically he was a parody of the Punisher. So this Overkill type character, who's like, we'll spoil it a little bit for you. He has this graphic action scene where he's like just stabbing people. And Arthur, like, who witnesses this entire thing, is trying to describe it to the police.
And this is great. We were laughing about this. It was like he just tells the police he's like he was trying to find a place to put his knives,
and like he couldn't find a good place.
See, I can't talk about it without laughing. It was like the greatest. It's like the greatest moment ever.
Yeah, and he just murders these people. But then like all of a sudden, then you have a scene with the Tick, who's like all sunshiny and happy, and like. Like I said, he's like the combination of like Superman and Adam West. He's nigh invulnerable, always has a smile, always has a little thing to say about like the day. I don't know if you got to you said you got to episode 3.
I think I'm on episode 3, yeah.
Okay.
And that's when they start looking for Overkill.
Okay.
One thing I did notice is I actually like the design of the suit now than there was in the pilot. I thought the design of the suit in the pilot was a little weird. It was too textured. But now when you see it now, it's like it actually looks a lot cooler.
Yeah.
Like it's the angles and stuff. Like it looks.
Well, I'm jazzed that they actually gave him the mask, because they with Patrick Warburton, they basically had an open face for him, so you can always see Patrick Warburton's face.
Yeah.
And like I thought that kind of betrayed the character a little bit, because I love the fact that the Tick wore a mask, but he didn't really have a secret identity.
Yeah.
So there's nothing really he was hiding, and that was part of the psyche of the Tick.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're going with the character, because like one of the things that like I kind of like didn't like about the comic book is that it ended several times, because Ben Edlund basically went out to finish like to work on the cartoon, and like he has like all these like weird stories about like working on the cartoon for like 24/7 because he wanted to make the best cartoon ever. And like it was also his sort of gateway to television writing, which later on he did for, I think, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, he did. I think he did Buffy. Yeah. I think he did Firefly as well.
Yeah, he did Firefly. He's like best friends with Josh Whedon. That's how, and they both worked on Titan AE. And like they did pass on both like the script for Titan AE, that animated Fox science fiction movie, which is not bad.
It's not a bad movie.
It's not a bad movie.
It's a cool concept. I actually
cool
like
concept,
I actually like the concept.
But that's how they met, and like he started continuing to work with Whedon after that. But where was it going? I didn't like the show because it took some liberties, because it was a network show. With this is an Amazon show, so maybe Ben Edlund has a lot more control on what he wanted to do. I remembered. So what I didn't really like about the comic book is that like when Ben Edlund left, the comic book just kind of sort of ended. It didn't really they were kind of like hinting towards the Tick's past and like where he came from and stuff, and that's like one of the things that the mysteries that was left unsaid, and didn't really get a satisfying end to that. It in some ways it kind of reminded me of when like Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird started like pushing away from like the Ninja Turtles comic book. I felt that didn't have like a very satisfying ending as well. So I mean, maybe this is Ben Edlund's like chance to sort of get back into it and like explain the mystery of the Tick, or not explain it. Who knows? Because there's definitely a lot more changes to it. It's still the Tick though. It still's got the main themes and such like and so on and so forth. Arthur's suit is more like an Iron Man type suit, not with like the plate armor and stuff, but like he's got like a HUD and everything like that, which I always thought was pretty cool. And they're getting into the mysteries of that suit as well. I love the fact that they incorporated Arthur's sister Dot. I actually like her character in the show more than I do than the cartoon. I think she appeared maybe a couple times in the cartoon.
In the cartoon, she was just like really annoying, right?
Yeah.
I think I remember her being really annoying in the cartoon, but this one she's actually really, really cool.
I think
character.
it's like a unique take. She's a EMT that's going to school, or she's learned, but then she also helps out with, like if like a thug gets like injured and stuff. Yeah. They like go to a secret place to get patched up.
I think she more helps out the owner of the roller derby she goes to.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Which it makes it a complicated relationship with Arthur, who's like wants to be a superhero, or at least denies that he wants to be a superhero, but he wants to be a superhero.
He's kind of fighting it, but at the same time he's like, I think so far in the episode I'm watching, he's kind of accepting it, or starting to accept it. I did love the episode, and I'm not very far, but I think it was episode 2 when the Lint and
I love that name.
Is it Miss Lint or is it just Lint?
I think it's Lint. Yeah.
Okay.
It was supposed to be like a dumb name that they gave her.
It was like Lint and Ramses are meeting in the car, and they're basically giving each other shit.
Yeah.
Like they're just taking jabs at each other. It's like such a great scene because they're just like, it's great because it's just like two villains like giving each other crap and just like taking jabs at each other. But the dialogue is great. I mean, the effects are.
I think they service the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even in the Tick, obviously they're probably not going to have Omnibus come out, or maybe they will, but like, I think it's serviceable to, the tone of the show.
I think also what I enjoy too is like how much fun the Tick is. Like you can tell the actor, like Peter, Sarah, Peter. We'll just call him Peter from now on. You can tell he's having a great time like in this role, like, and it shows in the show. Like when the actors, when people are enjoying themselves in the role, it just makes a better product. So he's like, you can tell he's having so much fun with it. There are some really dark parts to it, and it's really funny. It's really interesting to see them balance out the kind of like you were saying, the lightheartedness of the Tick with kind of like the really dark parts. Like I think one of my favorite scenes so far is when the Tick talks to Arthur and essentially saying like, the entire time Tick is kind of pushing like, this is your destiny, like you're supposed to do this, like just destiny is calling, answer the phone call. And there's one scene when he asks Arthur point blank, like he's like, oh, the Terror took something from you, and Arthur's just like, he took several things from me, and he essentially explains what happened, and Tick's like, come here, give
me a hug.
The world you deserve a hug, and I'm here to give it to you. And he just like hugs him, but it's just like a really nice, sweet moment because he's just hugging him, and he's like, there you go, receive the hug, hug me back. And he's like, do you feel better now? Doesn't that feel great? He's like, yeah, it kind of does.
It was good.
And then like you cut to like bad guys trying to kill them, and it's just like hilarious. Arthur's origin is pretty dark. Like it's really kind of fucked up.
I mean, we'll just have to spoil it. You guys just have to watch the show. We won't do it justice, but like basically Arthur never really had that sort of origin story before in either renditions. Whether
because I think in the Tick he just kind of appeared. He was just there.
Yeah,
right?
he was just he was like in the cartoon he was just like an accountant just working there, and like they just like called Arthur and it's like, this costume's pretty unusual.
And I remember in the cartoon they called him a bunny, but he was a moth. Right?
Moth,
he's like, I'm a moth. And
I'm a moth. Yeah. Voiced by Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees. In this one, they like kind of show him as a kid, and like he's a big superhero fan. There's like a team of superheroes that he likes. It's like a kind of like an Avengers Justice League type, cast and characters. And then his dad's like, trying to meet him. He's like eating ice cream.
Yeah, they're like eating ice cream together, and he says like, oh, I'm gonna go fill the meter back up. I'll be back. And his dad walks away,
Yeah.
and his dad goes across the street to this car, right?
And this giant ship just like crashes right onto him.
And this is
Yeah.
the ship that his son, this is the ship piloted by this Avengers, like,
Yeah.
Super Friends team. And it just crashes on top of his dad.
Mhm.
And then, like, the even more twisted part is, like, out of the ship comes out his like, favorite superheroes.
And they're all like
But-
arguing and stuff like
No,
that.
they're all blind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because the
right.
terror weaponizes syphilis
Right.
and shoots a missile at them, and it
Mhm.
blinds
Oh,
them.
that's right. That's
So they're all coming out of this of this ship that just crushed his dad, and they're blind. They're,
Mhm.
I mean, it's like, it's graphic because they're like bleeding from their eyes. They're
Yeah.
like straight up bleeding from their eyes. So then the terrorist shows up, and he proceeds to shoot each of them in the head.
yeah.
Like he kills them all except for one of them. The other one he like crushes his hands.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like this really kind of dark, like, holy fuck, this is happening in front of this little kid.
Right.
And then the terror just comes up to Arthur and essentially like, takes his ice cream, eats it, and he's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
It was just like really bizarre because it just ends abruptly.
Mm-hmm. And like he has this basically obsession with the terror because like apparently the terror like perished or whatever, and people were kind of saying that like Arthur had a theory that he was still alive.
Yeah.
And so he's like he's basically hunting down the terror because he's like this childhood trauma that killed his favorite superhero team and his dad at the same time.
Yeah.
And then ate his ice cream cone. And then like they kind of even say that they hint in like the second episode that Tick is like sort of a figment of his imagination, and then like they quickly dispel that. I always thought that was really interesting.
I thought that was really
Yeah.
interesting, and it's great because it makes sense the way they kind of build it up.
Yeah.
It's not sloppy writing. It's
Right.
very on point writing, which
Yeah.
is it makes sense every time they from up to that point until up to the point where they spell that it could be a figment of his imagination.
Mm-hmm.
They present his interaction with the Tick kind of he's the only one really seeing him.
Yeah.
And then right when they dispel it, it's just, yeah, I see him too. And that's it. It's just like,
Yeah. It's like, okay, though, so this guy's a real type character.
they're just like, it's real. It's
Yeah.
not, we're just fucking with you.
Yeah.
Like, and it's, I mean, I you know, that's great. That's like, to me, that's pretty good. That's great writing. It's
yeah,
just
it's
like,
a little bit more layered.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Like that's I think one of the things that the Fox live action show didn't really have is that it wasn't very layered. It was just joke. Here's a joke. Here's a joke. Here's a joke.
yeah.
And like I think that was like majorly missing because even the cartoon was layered. It had little layers to it as well. I mean, even though it was just like a moon with a bite like out of it and just says ha, that's to me is like it's more than the show.
Yeah. And it's great too. I think what I also enjoyed about it too was just the fact that it's I mean it's just a very well put together show.
Yeah.
It's not it's not just
People who are writing for it actually enjoy the subject matter,
Yeah.
and they really want to do a good job in creating a really good show.
and it's funny because it will you when you start watching you kind of get the feeling of it's kind of parodying superheroes, but
Right.
after you watch it for a while you kind of
Well, it does respect the genre.
you get to
It's
the
a
point where
different way.
it's not really making fun of heroes. It's
Yeah.
just having a lot of fun with them,
Yeah.
with that world and kind of just in general the genre.
Mhm.
Like it's having fun with it. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you really think about it. When you have those kind of really dark moments with these villains, it's like, yeah, wouldn't villains just be giant fucking psychopaths who like
Well, it's
like when he tells Lint,
Yeah.
he's like, don't kill people because they make fun of you or call you names. Like,
Right.
kill people because it's fun to kill people.
right. Well, one of my favorite things also in the show is that in the second episode, was it second or maybe the third episode, beginning of it, basically this guy one of her thugs comes in, Lint's thugs, and says, "Here you go. By the way, I quit."
Oh yeah,
Because like after like being beaten by a giant blue guy like who's nigh invulnerable, you probably don't want to be sticking around.
yeah. You're just like, I'm done.
Yeah, I mean it makes kind of sense. It's got a slight realism to it.
Yeah.
Like
Also, she killed them. Like, remember, she's trying to kill the Tick.
yeah
And the lightning kind of bounced. Well, she's trying to kill him, and she's using all her power, but
Mhm.
the lightning also kills the thugs around her.
yeah
So I think that might be another reason why he's just like, fuck it, I'm done.
yeah. And it's like, look, I quit.
Yeah.
And like she doesn't like kill him right there because that's something like maybe like someone in like a
That's something the
parody-
Joker
yeah.
would do.
well something with Joker would do, but like you expect that from the Joker.
Yeah.
But if
which
like
which
if
is I find really annoying about the Joker.
thugs are working for someone, you're just like, look, like, you can't just like kill us all off because then we won't work for you anymore.
Yeah.
there has to be some incentive for them to work for you.
Yeah.
And it can, I mean, yeah, it could be a lot of money, but yeah, there has to be some kind of underlying like realism to it. And when he just like quits and she just like rolls her eyes.
Yeah. Her eye.
Yeah, her eye. Yeah, she only has the one eye.
Yeah. So it's great.
Yeah.
So I would say definitely check it out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Like episode 4 gets great because then you meet Arthur's like stepdad, and he's awesome.
Oh, the episode I left off on, they're like him and daughter talking.
Like, how's
about,
your feet? Yeah,
yeah, him and daughter talking about him.
Apparently he's a podiatrist or whatever.
Oh,
or
is he? Okay, I
something
figured
like
that was it. But
I'm
I'm looking forward to it. I'm
yeah.
looking forward to see what they do with Dot as well.
Yeah, his stepdad's played by the. Do you remember Lost? All the Dharma Initiative videos with that host, that Japanese guy.
Oh yeah, he's a stepdad.
He's a stepdad. He's
Nice.
awesome.
He's
He's
great.
hilarious. Says it. Like him and Tick becomes like best friends.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look forward to watching the rest of it. Is it are all the
episodes are up.
It's 10 episodes?
I think it's 10 episodes. Yeah. Most of their shows are 10 episodes. Yeah, because Mad Dog's 10 episodes as well. Yeah. There's 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mad Dogs is another one of those shows like so many shows I've been meaning to watch, but
I love Mad Dogs. I saw the pilot episode.
that's the one with Steve Zahn in it, right?
Yeah. Steve Zahn and Billy Zane, your favorite guy.
Oh, it's got Billy Zane in it.
Oh,
what?
dude.
What?
Billy Zane is awesome on
Oh
that show.
my god! Now I definitely have to watch it. I think we need to pull our money together
Right.
and buy one of Billy Zane's paintings.
He does paintings.
He does. He paints,
Oh.
and apparently he paints really well. Real quick, speaking of Billy Zane,
Yeah.
I think we need to have a retro hero throwback movie day where we watch The Phantom
Right.
with Billy Zane,
Oh, man,
The
that's good.
Rocketeer.
Rocketeer is good. Yeah.
We could watch The Shadow, I guess.
No, I don't want to watch the Shadow.
Okay, we can just watch Rocketeer and The Phantom.
Yeah. The Shadow is the war. I don't like that one.
I don't like The Shadow either.
Yeah. I mean, The Phantom I like halfway because it's still a fun movie, but more towards the end. The Rocketeer I love.
Yeah. We'll watch The Rocketeer and
Yeah.
The Phantom. I love The Phantom. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I just love that so much.
It's that weird period where
Because-
they came out with like pulp heroes. And,
Yeah, like, because Treat Williams is so great as,
Right.
like, basically an evil Howard Hughes.
Mhm.
Like, he's, like, the best.
Yeah. And then in The Rocketeer they have
Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton and Terry O'Quinn playing Howard Hughes.
Yeah. Timothy
Yeah.
Dalton's great in The Rocketeer because you can tell
Neville Sinclair.
he's
I love
just
that.
so,
Yeah.
He's so, like, just
Yeah.
hamming it up, but he loves
Mhm.
it. Like, you can tell he's having a great fucking time.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, too, because I don't know if you would also, I don't know if you would agree. He actually, you can tell he's having a really good time when he plays the villain in Hot Fuzz as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's kind of like, just like, he's over the top, kind of like hamming it up, being
Mhm.
kind of like really jokey about it. Like, it's just a really great villainous performance from Timothy Dalton. Like,
He's a good villain.
yeah. Can't believe he was James Bond as well.
Oh, looks like we're having a little trouble streaming here, but it's mostly going to buffer. You guys will be able to listen to this right afterwards.
All right.
But
Moving
let's
on.
move on here, and I think this is going to be the last thing that we talk about. Get rid of this image of the tick. So tonight is the... Wow, that's not good.
In 2 hours, actually, for us.
In 2 hours?
For us in Eastern Time. In 2 hours is the season finale of Game of Thrones.
The Game of Thrones. Now, do you watch the Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I do.
You do watch the Game of Thrones?
I watch it mainly because they took too goddamn long with the books.
Right. You read the books, all the books?
Yeah, I read all the books.
Okay. I'm just working my way through the first book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I've been kind of like putting it off
Mhm.
kind of thing. Because like I was actually initially reading them while they were on season 4,
Mhm.
but I had like this weird copy, like this bootleg copy on our e-reader
Yeah.
that had all these misspelled words, or like it was interpreting like asterisks as like double R's and such, and it was just really hard to read. So I said, you know what, I'm going to read this later, maybe buy the actual book. And then later on I bought the Kindle version, which was like, $6.99 or whatever, and just started reading that.
What's going on in this picture?
It's just it's like Jon Snow and the cast.
I love how
just partying
I love
out.
How I
Yeah,
love how the
just-
guy who plays Jamie Lannister
Yeah.
always just looks like he can't relax.
Yeah. Well,
Although he's really good in if you ever see on Netflix or anywhere else
yeah.
a movie called Headhunters,
Oh.
he's in it.
Yeah.
It's really good. Like he's totally awesome in it. But so tonight's the season finale.
Yeah, there's gonna be spoilers because we can't talk about Game of Thrones without spoiling a little bit. So if you haven't watched all of Game of Thrones of this season or the entire series, then you can stop listening right now because we're just gonna talk about it.
And then we're gonna go to Games and Thrones after.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about D&D and stuff. So during this entire season, like it's a shorter season. There's not 10 episodes. There's only 7 or 8.
I think it's 6.
6?
No,
it's 7.
8
It's
or
8?
7.
I think it's 7.
I don't fucking know.
Yeah, last episode was episode 6. So there's 7 episodes, and there's going to be 6 episodes next season.
Yeah. But then I heard those 6 episodes are going to be really a lot longer.
Yeah, they're going to be an hour and a half. They're going to be like 6 movies, basically.
Yeah.
So in this season of Game of Thrones, everything is happening a lot faster. The reason why is that
because they have pickup trucks.
apparently they have pickup trucks. The reason why is that we're coming to the end here, and this is the last act. So obviously everything has to happen a little bit faster, and there's a lot less walking around and talking, which I think one of the reasons why I like how people are complaining about how the pace of Game of Thrones suddenly picked up. But you kind of have to understand that in the middle of all the seasons and stuff, that this is like the last act. So it has to be sort of a roller coaster. Also, a lot of people complained about the beginning of Game of Thrones being very slow and slow moving. Some people praised it for that, but a lot of people just like, oh, when are they going to get to places and stuff? And now people are like, they're getting places too fast. It's like, Jesus Christ, you just can't be satisfied with anything.
If this was a movie, you want the last act to move quickly and finally get to the resolution.
You don't want these slow moving things. So in the beginning, basically, this is Jon Snow finally meets Daenerys. Daenerys finally got across that sea and decided to do exactly what she wanted to do.
If you're reading the books, you're gonna hate book 4 and 5.
Really? Or are they just slow moving?
You're especially gonna hate Daenerys' story for book 4 and 5.
I don't really like Daenerys as a character in this television show.
She's not that. She's not that great in the book either.
Really?
She's actually worse in the book. Actually. I think.
No kidding. Something to look forward to. Cersei's great. But the I love Cersei. She's so evil.
She's actually great in the book too.
Right.
She's pretty cool. But yeah, so things are finally happening.
Yeah, so Daenerys finally met the King of the North. I love how when they're describing Daenerys as, the Stormborn, Mother of Dragons, all those titles.
Christ.
And then I love how Davos, one of my other favorite, the Onion Knight, one of my favorite characters is, this is Jon Snow. He's King of the North. That's it.
Oh God, that entire that kind of actually bothered me. The entire scene when they're basically, she's saying bend the knee, and then he says no, I'm not, and then she's essentially, well, your ancestors did, and he's like, well, your ancestor killed my grandfather, and she's like, well, you can't hold me to what my father did, and he's like, well, you can't hold me to my ancestor. Essentially, basically, you can't fucking tell me to bend the knee because my ancestors did, but then, say, oh, I'm not like my father who burnt my father. You're not like your father who burnt my father. It was great. It was a great scene, but it's also it makes Daenerys really I really don't like the Daenerys character in general, in the book and the show, and that kind of drives the point home to me in the show when they have those scenes. It's just you really don't like her.
Well, I think
it makes it hard to kind of root for her.
They wanted to convey something obviously if you are a fan of Daenerys, and there are people who are fans of Daenerys, that, she's been through a lot, and she's, she apparently is a more gracious ruler than most of that we've seen in the past. A hell of a lot better than Cersei, I guess. But one of the things that, you have to also notice is that if she's just going to come up to someone and say, bend the knee, they're going to ask no. Or they're going to say why. And they're probably going to say no because, I don't know who you are. And it's well, I'm the Mother of Dragons. That doesn't really mean anything to me.
And I think that's what they're trying to convey in general. It's just, these rulers, basically, because they follow this kind of lineage of great houses and people before them was great,
which I love Jon Snow because he's
just why? Why should I even fucking care? And that was kind of what distinguished Ned Snow against everybody else. Ned Snow was very
Ned Stark.
Ned Stark, whatever, same shit.
He's not a
Sean
bastard.
Bean,
Sean Bean.
fucking Boromir, Boromir of fucking Gondor. I think that was a great one when it was Ned Stark, because that was the one thing, and then they bring this point across in the book as well, is he was really well loved because he really cared. He was a fair but stern ruler. Like he in general cared about the people who were under him, because he also didn't want to rule. He never wanted the position, but he also knew he couldn't be, power hungry or anything like that. He essentially just treated everyone fairly. I mean, he was a little
too trusting at the end.
Yeah,
and that's how
that's kind of one the other running theme is like, at what point do you stop being so trusting and just essentially become a tyrant? And it's kind of like that fine balance that they're trying to find, which is, I think, was great when they had that scene between Tyrion and Varys, which is versus like, you have to make her listen. She can't be
Varys
like her
taking a drink too.
Yeah.
That was significant.
They're basically saying, like, you can't have her be like her father.
Right.
But he's like, she's not listening to me. He's like, well, you have to make her listen. Like, we can't repeat what we did. Like, she needs to be fair, but she also needs to be stern.
Yeah, and like, she ends up. So the result of that was because she executed two what's it, Tullys, right?
No, the Tarleys.
Tarleys.
They're essentially Sam's father and brother.
His brother Dickon.
And I love that whole I love when freaking
Rickon?
Yeah.
Dickon. With Braun. So she basically said, bend the knee to me, to this like fallen Lannister army that she just took out, and said, hey, you got to bend the knee to me, or I'm just going to have you be killed by my dragons. Which is that sort of same sort of like arrogance that I always see in Daenerys sometimes. Yeah, and I get it. She's been through a lot of shit, but like at the same time, though, this is not what you would call actual leadership. And like the Tarleys don't bend the knee, and at the dismay of the dad, who was the only one, but the son says the same thing, and then they get completely obliterated. And yeah, of course, the Lannisters, the rest of the Lannister army, decides to bend the knee at that point. But then you kind of have to decide. Like, I think even Jon Snow pointed out, is like, you're always saying that you're pointing out that you want to be different. You're different than all these rulers, but you can't do the same thing that they did. Yeah, and essentially that's what was happening.
Which was the opposite of what Olenna Tyrell told her. Which is,
it's like, be a dragon.
Yeah, essentially like, are you going to listen to people? Are you going to listen to the men, or are you going to be your own person and essentially be a dragon?
Right. But I feel that like how she's doing that is that she's just kind of like mimicking her dad. Was it Aegon? Yeah. Who wanted to burn everyone.
Yeah. So I think that's what I mean. It's kind of, you're kind of looking at it. You're kind of seeing how the story's going to go. Yeah. It's interesting to see where they're going to end up with her character especially. Obviously, the show's a lot further ahead than the book. Yeah. But in the book, you're kind of seeing little cracks in her trying to change the entire social structure.
Trying to break the wheel.
Yeah, she's trying to break the wheel. In the book, you're seeing little cracks here and there. Like, she's trying to be fair, but she's also trying to be strong. Right. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Which is good. It's a struggle. Yeah. And then you have on the other side Cersei, who's supposedly pregnant, which kind of goes against the, which I think she's lying, because it goes against that prophecy that was given to her by that witch in, I think, was it season 5 or something like that? Season 6. And I don't know if that's like a strategy to gain Jaime's like complete loyalty. Or she's going to end up killing Jaime. Or
well, there's also that crack, too, where she essentially tells him, like, don't never betray me again. Yeah. But I think the thing with Jaime as well is there's that honor that he has always kind of tried to live up to. Right. He might be... I mean, in the first few seasons of Game of Thrones, he was a giant prick. But after a while, you kind of saw that he was tired of being known as the Kingslayer, as basically this giant fucking piece of shit, when in actuality he saved a lot of people because he killed
the Mad King.
He killed the Mad King.
Yeah. Now this is also the same guy who pushed a little boy off of a tower.
That is true.
And then but he also befriended Brienne and Bronn. Mostly because Bronn wants money. Yeah. I love Bronn, by the way.
Bronn is the greatest.
He's the greatest.
He is the best. Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting to see where it's all going to end up. I mean, I don't know. I think one of the telling signs was when Cersei takes the crown and Jaime kind of gives her that look, kind of like like.
It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he kind of gives her like a disappointed, what are you doing? Like,
Mhm.
why are you doing this look? And I think, wasn't there a scene too where he essentially tells her, like, let's just run away together?
Yeah.
He says, like, let's just get away from all
Give
this.
her away from all this. But, like, it's too important for her because she's lost so much right now
Yeah.
that this is all she wants. I mean, she wanted this since she was a child.
Yeah.
Um,
And then the other stuff that's happening, I know the other big kind of fight that's happening, well, not fight, but I would say kind of conflict that's happening is
Right.
with Sansa and Arya
yeah.
and Winterfell, which is
Yeah.
interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, there's a lot of opinions on that of, like, why would Arya be stupid and blah, 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 blah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. Like, there's like, why is she... Unless the writers are playing it that she's really emotional about it and
Yeah.
and she has a plan, but so far it seems like Arya is kind of blinded by her rage.
By the light.
Yeah. She's blinded by her rage
Right.
of everything that's happened.
Well, she's a different character, and, like, she's not like a child anymore. But she, like, her motivation is rage.
Yeah.
Like, her motivation is revenge and such.
Mhm.
And, like, Sansa is, like, a person who believed that she was going to be like a princess and be pampered and stuff.
Mhm.
She's been raped. She's been humiliated. She's been through like she said, Daria. There's, like, things I went through that you couldn't imagine. Which don't apparently happen to her in the book entirely.
No.
From what I hear, like, I think like she got.
No, in the book it's not as she
She doesn't get raped by Ramsay. She
doesn't
in
go-
fact, the entire Ramsay thing doesn't even happen. to
Yeah,
her.
in the book it's completely different.
Yeah.
I kind of like the way I kind of like what they did, how they rewrote that entire thing, kind of condensed it in the show. So for me, it's interesting to see how they're going to play that out in the books.
Yeah.
A lot of those things they kind of condensed.
If they ever come out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked the fact that they both had, like, traumas that happened to them,
Mhm.
and, like, you can't really say, like, which one was worse. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, she, Arya was blinded and treated like a, just like an animal, like a beaten animal when she was training to be an assassin.
Yeah, but then Sansa was raped.
Then Sansa was, like, in this, like, weird sort of, like, first she was, like, emotionally destroyed while she was in King's Landing,
Mhm.
and then she was raped by Ramsay, which is, like, the most evil person ever.
Mhm.
And she does get a degree of revenge on him by having his dogs eat him, bite his face off.
Spoilers.
Spoiler. This is all spoilers, guys. And one of my favorite things that happened this season was so basically the White Walkers exist, but the kingdoms have to kind of all rally against this new menace. And to only really prove that is that they needed to go and, like, basically capture a White Walker and bring it beyond the wall.
Mhm.
So they basically put together a crack team of like badasses.
Or as I saw somebody post on Twitter,
Yeah.
it's like Suicide Squad, but it's gonna be good.
Yeah, yeah. They get Giantsbane. Was it Tormund Giantsbane?
They got Tormund.
The Hound.
They got the Hound. They
Yeah.
got Thoros of Myr
Yeah.
and Beric Dondarrion.
Of the Brotherhood without banners.
Yeah, and then they have Jon Snow
Yeah.
and
Mormont.
Oh, Mormont. No,
Yeah.
Mormont was like the great.
Jorah Mormont,
Yeah,
yeah.
Jorah Mormont was great.
Yeah, and seeing what's his name? Gendry.
Oh, Gendry. Gendry was
Gendry
great too.
Baratheon.
Yeah.
Son, bastard son. I love that. But, like, I liked how those characters came together because all of them had a conflict with each other.
Yeah.
And then they basically, it's like sort of like the sign of, this is what you have to do. You have to get together with a bunch of your enemies to kind of take down this, like, foe.
Mm.
Yeah, and I love, like, the how they were playing off each other. I mean, I like the scene where they're all walking, away from the East Watch, with their foot soldiers as well, their red shirts.
The red shirts, yeah.
But, like, they're walking. They only kept the camera on those guys,
Mhm.
and, like, I liked what followed too, where, like, Tormund was, like, talking about, after this is done, I'm gonna go marry this woman. You should see her, and he's talking to the Hound, and she's obviously talking about Brienne, or as the Hound said, "You're with Brienne, a fucking toth." just I like that like back and forth where Giant Spain is saying that like all he wants to do is like have babies with her and have these like giant monsters that take over the world. And like it kind of humanizes their character as well.
Yeah.
And I love like what the house is like. It's a wonder that you're still alive. And it's like, well, I'm good at killing.
I love. I did think it was funny how Barrick and Thoros had the lightsabers essentially. Like they
the flaming swords.
They just lit their swords on fire, which I thought was pretty great.
Yeah, I love that too. Like it kind of like shows them that
they have
like
powers
and such. Do you think that, what is it, like, is it magic or is it just them like lighting their sword? They have like some chemical around their sword and they're just kind of lighting it on fire?
I think it's just them. I think it's just Thoros being like a red priest and just having that kind of power.
Right.
Kind of like how Melisandre had the shadow monsters.
Oh, coming out of her womb?
Yeah, he has that. Like, he can, deal with fire. Yeah.
It's kind of cool because it kind of like, it's like a more... I don't want to say realistic, but it's a more believable kind of magic kind of thing to do.
And then the other big thing that happened was, as they're capturing this White Walker, they get surrounded, and they're like fighting off all these undead, and they send Gendry, who apparently is the Flash.
Yeah.
He runs back to Eastwatch, and they send a Raven, and the Raven apparently has a cell phone.
Right.
And Daenerys comes and saves them all with their 3 dragons.
Well, to be honest, we don't know much time. We know that at least a day has passed.
Look, man. I think Smoke Signal would have been better than all that shit. So the dragons come, and as they
start eliminating the army of dead.
One thing I didn't get: if the dragon can do all that, why didn't the dragon just go after the fucking 4 main White Walkers, like the Night King and his knights?
Well, supposedly they probably would have, but then the Night King brought out his badass javelin skills and showed that he could kill a dragon without any problems at all.
Yeah.
Which I think was essential, because then people would ask, if that didn't happen, they said, well, why didn't they just send Daenerys out there to grab the White Walker? This is why. I mean, one of the reasons why is they don't want Daenerys to get killed. That's the big thing, is that she almost got killed even in
when she was attacking the Lannister army.
The Lannister army, the what's they call it, the Field of Flame 2.0.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of history stuff on like Game of Thrones, so I know a little bit more about the background, without reading the books. But the Field of Fire, yeah. The other thing is, like, yeah, she does have an army of dragons. It would have been easier for her to go down there, but then they show exactly why they couldn't do that, because, like, the Night's King, which is basically the Undertaker mixed with Sauron, could kill a dragon in one shot, which was shown that it's hard to kill a dragon before, and I thought that was really cool.
They essentially, the writers decided to essentially tell you, this is why he's such a threat.
Yeah.
Like, you think you're powerful because you have these 3 dragons, but he can just take them out in one shot.
Right, and I think that was the big thing, the theme of it all. Yeah. It's like, well, she has 3 dragons. Like, yeah, she has 3 dragons. That's just 3 targets for the Night's King.
But I mean, even in addition to that, not only does he kill one of the dragons, he
turns him into a zombie dragon.
Yeah, turns into an ice dragon. Yeah, essentially.
Do you think Do you think the dragon will shoot out ice now?
I think the dragon's gonna shoot out ice, and I think that's how the wall's gonna come down.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Like I always had like a feeling that the wall is like mystical in some manner. There's a reason why it keeps the White Walkers.
In the books, they talk about it, and essentially the wall in the book.
Yeah. It's created by the...
It's got magic runes in the actual wall, so not only is it like solid ice, it's solid ice with magic
on it that keeps him at bay, because that army would have like went through that wall, ages ago if they could.
Well, the cool thing I didn't really get the scale of the wall in the book until I saw it in the show, and in the show, it kind of makes it this giant makes it a lot more grand than it is described in the book. In the book, they describe it as like just this giant wall.
Yeah.
But then when you look at it in the show, it's like...
It's a huge wall.
It's basically like 50 or 100 Great Walls of China. Like, it's just a solid, giant fucking block of ice that's like runs all along.
Mm-hmm.
Which is... It's almost like... It's like a complete structure.
Yeah.
Like a really thick, complete structure. And it's really, really giant.
Yeah.
You don't really get that in the book. They say it's huge, but you're kind of like, when you're reading things, your sense of scale isn't all that great.
Yeah, but
then when you see it, you're just like, holy shit, like it's even huge. And it's even great too, because sometimes, some of these websites like the Ice and Fire Wiki.
Yeah.
They have like illustrations they gather illustrations that people have made or like.
Yeah.
And one of the illustrations they had, for the wall was this giant. It's even bigger than in the show. I mean, it's like huge. It's like this ginormous fucking structure. It like basically goes up to the heavens.
I heard the throne was kind of the Iron
The
Throne.
throne too, yeah. And I know they had a artist rendition of what Martin thought what Martin's view of the throne was.
Yeah.
And in the show, it's like a chair, but in the
With a bunch of swords in it.
Yeah, but in the actual like artist interpretation of what Martin thinks it is,
Yeah.
it looks more like it's a lot more imposing. It's just more kind of like a spire, and
Yeah.
at the top of the spire is a chair.
Yeah, but that would be hard to like.
That would be
film
hard.
around,
That would
yeah.
obviously be hard to do. But
Yeah.
it's a lot more imposing, a lot more menacing.
Right.
That's why they say like in the book they talk about like it's an uncomfortable chair, and not only that, when people sit in it, they're always cutting themselves because there's so many fucking swords.
There's a king scab.
Yeah.
Because he kept on cutting himself on that chair.
Yeah, and he's just like, it's just such an imposing structure, but
Mhm.
it's supposed to be uncomfortable because it, tells the ruler, like, this is what you're doing now. Like, this
Yeah.
is what your job is, to rule over his people.
It's not built for comfort.
It's not built for
leading
comfort. Yeah.
is not comfortable, which I think is a cool little sort of paradox there. But yeah, like
it's like the sword of Damocles.
it is the sword of Damocles.
It's basically the sword of Damocles.
Yeah. So getting back to the show, they do end up capturing the walker, and this last episode is them presenting it to Cersei, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
And this one's about an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay.
And they're going to be talking about, like, what they're going to do with the White Walkers. Maybe Cersei has a scheme
Mhm.
up her sleeve, and she's probably going to blow everyone up because she's been known to do that.
Yeah. And this is the first time they're going to have a lot of these principal characters from the entire series run together.
Yeah, that's what I always give props for, is that like this past season to me was brand new because like none of these characters met each other before.
Yeah.
And now finally these characters are meeting each other, and it's been 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
We finally get some interaction between what are the principles of our story.
Mm.
And so I'm kind of looking forward to that because it's something that they haven't done in the past. You've heard them talk about each character, but now they're going to be face to face.
Did you almost were you thinking they were going to kill off Tormund?
Yeah, I was like, no,
kill him off.
no.
Survive,
and then,
motherfucker.
Yeah. And then the Hound comes in.
It just saves his ass.
And saves his ass. I wonder if the Hound is going to be his best man at the wedding.
I hope they do that.
Spain.
I hope they do that. I hope they marry. I hope him and Breen marry,
Yeah.
and the Hound is the best man.
Yeah.
That'd be so great.
And she's like, "Who's your best man?"
And her bridesmaid.
Clegane.
Her bridesmaid is gonna be Podrick. That'd be the greatest thing ever. I would love that.
Podrick has the magic cock. I don't know if you should call him the.
God damn you.
He does. That's what Bronn said. It's like, you're the one with the magic cock.
I think one of my favorite scenes too was when Jon Snow and Jorah are talking essentially about his dad.
Oh, and he offers him.
He offers him the long claw back.
Long claw.
I thought that was a really nice scene. I mean, it's great because there a lot of these kind of things are happening that
these little interactions.
That would have been nice. Like,
well, I dug the
you
one.
You always kind of imagine what these characters would say to each other when they finally meet, and then
I dug when Sam Tarly was cured Jorah's dragon scale, and basically said your dad basically gave me permission not to die, and basically saved his life during that period.
Yeah,
and he was basically returning the favor because his son was in trouble, and he went through and studied about how to remove dragon scale. Successfully did it too.
Yeah.
And then there's this little warm moment between the two. The two people who have never met at all had a huge effect on each other.
I love how the Citadel is essentially how it's essentially a critique on kind of old institutions,
right.
Oh, we're the older, wiser men, so we know what's up.
Right, but it's
essentially you have to listen to what we tell you. You're just you're just a student. You have no. But he was the one who cured it, and he cured it well, and it's just And
then they just said, okay, now read all these tomes and rewrite them.
Yeah.
Watch out for the mites. They might
Yeah. But I love that Sam was just fuck it, and just said, I'm going to take all these books and essentially do what you guys can't do.
Well, he actually even pulled a quote that his dad told him, I'm tired of reading about the success of others.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty poignant because that happened right after his dad got exterminated.
Yeah.
which is cool. There's a lot of these throwbacks that are happening in this last season too. When Arya went up to get into the castle of Winterfell, she was stopped by 2 guards. Something very similar happened to her in the first season, where she was at King's Landing and trying to get in somewhere, and they didn't believe that she was the daughter of Ned Stark because she was all like, all dressed up like a little boy and all dirty and such.
Hey, and then Benjen came back.
And yeah, Benjen came back. We haven't seen him since like that.
He basically came back as a Deus Ex Machina to save Jon Snow.
Well, I mean, he's always been there, so you have to wonder what he's out there for. And I think that was his purpose, is to save Jon Snow. To me, that was just like such a Final Fantasy moment.
You think they're ever gonna explain what happened to him though?
I thought it was like the wood nymphs kind of like saved him before he died, and then that's why he was like that mutant, because he explained that to what's his name, Brandon.
Yeah. He says like he's kind of like,
yeah,
he didn't die.
He didn't die completely. The wood nymphs like put I think one of those like dragon stone or whatever, those black obsidian inside of him, so that he'd be still sort of part undead but part still like lucid and alive.
Wow. So he's like kind of like a half White Walker.
Yeah, and so he's been like fighting, I guess, the White Walkers ever since then, just as this unseen sort of dark avenger, I guess. And then finally he fulfills his purpose of like saving Jon Snow, who has more lives than a cat. Yeah, like I thought that was actually cool, because a lot of the stuff that happened in that last episode would have taken 12 episodes back in the day.
But it's funny because I think, and another thing people need to remember is that the last few seasons they were going off of book material.
Yeah,
and so that's actually how the book goes. Is like a lot of shit takes forever to happen. Like Brienne's journey to find Sansa and Arya.
Yeah,
it's a lot longer in the book, and it's annoying.
Yeah,
Daenerys' journey from like, going to Slaver's Bay and going to all the cities, and then finally going to Marine and all that stuff. Like, it's fucking annoying. It's like the worst part of the book because she doesn't do anything. She just sits there and does jack shit. Like,
this is like Dance of Dragons, or
like Dance of Dragons ends with her. Essentially ends with her how in that one season ended where she was like back at the Dothraki Sea.
Yeah,
like that's where it ends with her. But the entire like 2 books, like 4 and 5, are her entire journey, which is really fucking boring. Like it's horrible. You're gonna hate 4 and 5.
Yeah, I mean, like in terms of like what I'm reading now, I mean it's kind of unfolding, and maybe that's because I'm kind of influenced by the show. My favorite characters are Jon Snow and Tyrion, and Bronn.
Yeah, Bronn's actually pretty cool in the.
I haven't gotten to Bronn's part yet, but I'm just saying in general, Bronn's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
I love the fact that when he was in the battle with the Dothraki in the television show, he basically starts throwing his knives, and like the Dothraki kind of like easily block it, and then like they chop off like Bronn's horse's legs, and his horse gets like like falls over. Like that's stuff that Bronn would have done back in the day.
Yeah.
And like he's like kind of taken aback because now these Dothraki don't fight like the honorable knights that fight in Westeros. These are Dothraki. They fucking fight however they want to fight.
Yeah, and that's why he was running.
Yeah, and that's where he was running and had to shoot him with the iron bolt. Like, I thought it was a cool scene, and I loved how he like turned around and like was like, "Where are ya?" So,
yeah, that's tonight.
That's tonight. It's gonna come to an end, and hopefully, won't be a disappointing one. Usually, like the last episodes are always like a sort of prelude to whatever the next season's going to be about.
Yeah,
and it's not usually action packed. I'm not sure if they're gonna keep with that formula since this is a longer episode. So,
and who knows? Maybe Martin will release Winds of Winter before the next season starts.
He was scheduled to release it like this year or last year.
I think he was supposed to release it this year, but he said he probably won't release it until like at the earliest next year.
Right.
Like early next year would probably be like the earliest he can release it.
And that's probably going to cover Resurrection of Jon Snow and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's going to cover the Resurrection of Jon Snow. And like, basically the last... like
Phoenix Down.
The last few... Yeah, it's probably going to cover the last few seasons. And then...
And he has one more after that, right?
Yeah, he has one more. I mean, and I know they quoted him saying that he actually might write more. Like, he might stretch that last conclusion out a few more books, but people are basically telling him no.
Yeah, it's
Like,
like
don't.
look,
They're like, just finish it before you die.
you make these too long anyways.
They're basically telling him like, please finish these books before you die.
Right, which he does find as an insulting question. I saw an interview with him.
Oh really?
Yeah, he finds
He's-
that highly insulting. But that was like 2 years ago.
Where he's like, well, oh, they tell him to finish the books before he
Yeah.
dies. Oh.
They're like concerned about this health.
But he's got an outline. He essentially he said he has an entire outline
Mhm.
of the conclusion. He's like, I have it all down. So
Yeah.
he's like, if something does happen to me, he's like, somebody can like my. He essentially said somebody can pick this up and write.
I think another author did the same thing. Like he was basically, it was I forgot what it was.
Was
for.
it the guy who did? No, it wasn't Terry Pratchett, was it?
No, it wasn't Terry Pratchett. It was like he did a book series that was highly popular, like a fantasy series,
Mhm.
and then he ended up like I don't getting cancer or something like that. My friend of mine told me about this, and he like left all his notes
Mhm.
and basically told who would be the person who was going to finish it off. Like, these are my notes. This is how it's going to be written. You need to finish it because I can't, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I believe that guy ended up actually finishing that series. I don't remember what it's called. I don't know if it's like Wheel of Time or something like that. I don't think it was that one.
Which one was the? I remember when I was watching Game of Thrones, and I talked when I was still working at Spin Master.
Yeah.
I was working at a previous job, and I talked to somebody about if they watched Game of Thrones. I was like, "Oh no, I don't watch it because it's like the same as this certain book series where they had like magical wolves and shit." And I think it was I don't know if it was Wheel of
Right.
Time or something like that.
That's an odd
But-
reason not to.
But he basically says he's like, "Oh no, I don't want to watch that because I've
Right.
already seen it." And he basically kind of like the way he said it, he just said it like really kind of just like condescending.
the
and
condescending nerd type.
Yeah, the condescending nerd type, and just kind of like, "Oh, I'm better for not reading that shit."
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the whole hate some people have for Game of Thrones because it's popular.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why? And I remember talking to Tiny Dinosaurs about it, and I
Yeah.
told him like, oh yeah, this coworker of mine said, and Tiny Dinosaurs was just like, he just like was fuming. He's like, dude, I've read that series, and
Mhm.
it's like, he's like, it's nothing like Game of Thrones.
Right.
Like he's like, that guy's full of shit. Like basically, the guy just wants to hate it because it's popular, not because it's
Yeah. That's.
And it was just like,
I always see people like that. It's like the most fashionable thing to say is like whatever people all like.
But I
they
think that was the book series that was another series where like the author died before he finished
Right.
it, and they like I don't think he ever. I didn't. It basically ended on a cliffhanger because
No one wanted
he didn't
to.
do. He didn't have like an outline or anything, so nobody can continue it. But
No, I'm sure
that's rough. That's
yeah,
rough. It
that's-
happens.
But apparently George R. R. Martin has taken these steps, and I mean they gave it to what's his name, Benioff, and who's the other one? Weiss.
Yeah, Weiss.
Yeah. They call him
The
D&D.
The Davids.
The Dungeons and Dragons. The Davids. Yeah, that's true. So they have an idea of how it ends. Obviously, they can.
It's gonna end with the alternate
Right.
universe, alternate history of when the South won the Civil War. That's how it's gonna end.
Yeah, they're gonna get. Yeah, they've gotten a lot of press on that
I
one.
know.
I don't know. I like. I guess I kind of get the sort of resentment of them trying to make a show like that, but at the same time, there's already a couple shows that are kind of like that. I would say Into the Badlands is very similar to that, and also the Man in High Castle are very similar as well.
Yeah, but it's not about slavery.
Yeah, I guess, but
We'll see. I mean, see if they even do it.
right. I mean,
Because they might get so much backlash that they're just like, you know what, screw it. It's not worth the
well,
effort.
it's like, did anyone go after Harry Turtledove, who's one of those guys who writes alternate history like novels?
Mm-mm.
One of his famous ones is Worlds at War, which is like if aliens invaded around World War II and all the political leaders at the time have to band together to fight this new menace.
Mhm.
He also wrote another one where basically it's takes place in the Civil War, and the South has a machine gun. And like how that affects like the war and such. I haven't read it myself because they're really long books. I mean, I'm reading Game of Thrones right now, but it's a little easier since like I've watched so much of it now.
Could be worse. Could be trying to read Tolkien again. Fuck.
I can't do that ever again.
I've tried to read The Lord of the Rings 3
Yeah.
times already, and each fucking time I'm just like, this shit is so fucking dry.
Well,
like The Hobbit, I can read The Hobbit.
The Hobbit I can read, and I can read any of the Frodo parts with Gollum. I can't read Aragorn or any of the I've already did it once. I didn't really dig it that much, and I hate the description. I realize that like Tolkien is the guy who created all this. Basically, he created the fantasy genre, how it is viewed and how it was viewed for countless decades, but how he describes it is just not interesting. Like I think
It's too dry.
It's too dry.
And I met a few.
yeah.
I mean, even Tiny Dinosaurs, who's a huge Tolkien fan.
Yeah.
He's even told me, he's like, it's really fucking dry. He's like, I
Yeah.
don't blame you. He's like, I don't blame you because I know him and our friend Sudeep said, like, Tolkien was a historian.
Yeah, he's a historian.
And that was his big thing, was just writing the history of things.
Right.
And Tiny Dinosaur has something, he's like, that's why it's so fucking dry, because when he describes something, he essentially goes through the entire fucking history or something. So, like, one example he gave me is when they go to the meeting at
Rivendell.
Rivendell,
Yeah.
and they're talking about, they're essentially talking about the ring,
Yeah.
and he's like that entire fucking chapter when they're in Riverdale and they're talking about it, or Rivendell,
Mhm.
and he's like, they describe the entire fucking history of the ring. He's like, but not only the ring, they describe the history of one of the towers, like Dol Guldur,
Yeah.
and they're like talking about how it went from here,
Mhm.
like this person took it over to this person took it over, and then someone from Gondor
Yeah.
like fucking sieged it and they took it over. He's like, dude, the entire fucking chapter should only be like a few pages, turns into this ginormous, just like fucking history
lesson. Yeah.
And he's just like, he's like, I've read it so many times it doesn't bother me. He's like, but he's like, I can sympathize with people who like can't read it because it's so fucking dense and dry.
That's why I loved Hobbit, because it's written like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And it's just fun to read, and
Yeah.
I can read that over and over again. I just can't do Lord of the Rings. Like after reading them the first time through, I've read, I think, the first book in high school, roughly around that time. And then I did the second, third book around like before when the movies were about to come out.
I would say Lewis was a lot easier.
Oh, Lewis is great. I've read all those books many times.
Yeah, like I read the Narnia books,
Yeah.
and they were great. I didn't care too much about the religious kind of like the religious aspects of stuff.
C.S. Lewis was very religious.
And I know, and I
Yeah.
get that. I mean, some of the stuff was kind of a little, like, think about it now, like some of that stuff is a little too kind of Deus Ex Machina and kind of like, oh, that's convenient.
Well, yeah, the final confrontation isn't very action-packed, I would say.
Yeah, the last battle is kind of like whatever. But there was. I feel kind of like the middle books are kind of a little underappreciated. Like I like the Silver Chair
and Prince Caspian.
I like the Silver Chair. I didn't really care for Prince Caspian, but I did like the Silver Chair. Which one was the Silver Chair again? Is that the prequel?
No, I thought it was like because at that point I think all the kids couldn't go back. Right?
The Silver Chair?
Or except for the youngest.
I think so.
And then like a cousin that went back, and is that the one where he like gets turned into a dragon, or am I still thinking of Prince Caspian?
No, I thought the Silver Chair. Which one's the one where essentially it's a prequel and it tells you how they built the wardrobe and everything? Isn't that the Silver Chair?
Actually, yeah, I think you're right.
There's one book.
I haven't read them in a
There's
while,
one book
so.
when I think it's like the cousin, and it's either the youngest girl or it's the cousin and somebody else.
Yeah.
Like his schoolmate,
Mm-hmm.
and they end up meeting like this kind of like, they call him like a marsh person.
Yeah.
They call it's like Wimple something or some shit, but he's essentially like a marsh person. Like he's kind of like he kind of reminds me of like the Scarecrow, but from like the marshes.
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
team up with him to do something. I forgot it's been a while since I read those goddamn books.
I think actually Tom Baker, one of the Doctor Who's, played that character in the television version.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I remember liking that book because it was just funny. Like there was a lot of like humorous stuff that happens to that character, and it's just funny. But that stuff was a lot easier to read than fucking Tolkien.
And
but then they were also best friends, weren't they?
Yeah, they were best friends. They always talked about like writing. They I would say C.S. Lewis is more of like a character writer and story, whereas Tolkien is all background and history.
I feel like if they would have combined their writing, I feel like Lewis probably
would have been the Dusk Till Dawn of fantasy books.
Yeah, and it would have been great. It probably would have been fun. It probably would have been great because
Yeah.
Lewis probably could have reined in Tolkien a bit, so he
Yeah.
wasn't so dry.
It's like, look, we
But
don't
then-
need to know where these robes come from.
Yeah, but then like Tolkien would have been like, okay, you need a little more backstory on.
It's
some
like,
of this.
look, we need to know where this castle is.
Yeah. Man, imagine we can time travel. I would totally go back to that, but also to when Robert, or the Conan writer.
Robert Heinlein. Was it Heinlein?
No, It was
Howard.
Howard E. Lee.
Howard E.
Was it Howard E. Lee?
Yeah, I think so. I tried reading those too, and
When
I
I'd-
couldn't
I'd-
really get into
I'd
them.
go back to when him and freaking God damn it.
H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, him and H.P. Lovecraft are best friends.
Yeah, they because is it Conan? It's gonna take me to Conan O'Brien.
You gotta go down to like there you
Characters: Conan the Barbarian, Robert E. Howard.
go. Robert E. Howard.
Yeah. No, because like I think it was kind of said that Conan's ancestor, what was his ancestor's name again?
Kroll.
Kroll
Did you
was
say it
the
was like-
one that defeated or like Cthulhu or one of the characters
Like
from
banished Cthulhu.
Yeah, banished him. Like that's the reason why he was on that island in the first place. I don't know how because Kroll was just Kevin Sorbo with a sword.
Hey, don't talk shit about Kevin Sorbo, okay? Actually, no, you can't talk shit about Kevin
Actually,
Sorbo.
I heard he's a jerk on set.
He's yeah.
In fact, I don't think even Sam Raimi likes him anymore.
I don't think anybody likes him anymore. Also, he's like super religious.
Yeah, he became super.
Where
religious,
like
yeah.
he basically is kind of Kirk Cameron, where he uses it as I feel like Kirk Cameron uses his religion as an excuse to be a fucking asshole.
No, he does. Yeah.
What I've read, like I've read articles about Sorbo, and it's the same way.
Yeah.
He kind of uses it as a way to kind of be an asshole.
There's a reason why he's in Ash versus Evil Dead.
And he also uses it as a kind of like he plays a victim because he's like, oh, because my religion, because I'm super Christian, like
Right.
nobody wants to work with me. So he plays the victim, and it's like, no, because you're an asshole about it.
Yeah, I mean Willie Ames, he's religious, but I wouldn't work with him.
Who's Willie Ames?
He's from Charles in Charge. He's Charles.
Oh, Buddy?
Yeah.
Oh, fucking Bible Night?
Bible man.
Bible Man.
Like, he's fine. He seems like a cool guy. Scott Bale, on the other hand,
He's a fucking asshole.
Oh, yeah,
I heard he's a fucking asshole.
when Joni died, he basically said, "Oh, it's all the drugs he takes or she took," and like the husband said, "She died of cancer, asshole."
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, what is
And then actually, at least to Scott Bale's credit, he did apologize for the comment.
But still, this is a sack of shit thing to do.
It is a sack of shit thing to do. She did have problems, but like how she happened to die was of cancer in a trailer home.
Fucking Scott Bale.
Yeah, Scott Bale is a terrible person. Robert blah blah blah.
As long as we still have
Bob blah blah blah.
As long as we still have Bruce Campbell.
Well, Bruce Campbell's awesome. He's going to continue to be awesome. Bruce Campbell, Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi, all those guys are going to be awesome.
I want to hang out with Ted Raimi and Sam Raimi at the same time.
They'll
just be
just
like-
play pranks on you, dude.
Really? Is that what they do?
That's what they do.
Ted Raimi's
Yeah.
so fucking great.
Yeah, he is. He's awesome. You know how Game of Thrones should end? Like they're about like the army of dead's like enclosing on them, and then this portal opens, and then freaking Ash lands
That'd be the greatest.
right
thing
in
ever.
there.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Oh well,
He
time to
just
punch
pulls
back in."
He just pulls a shotgun and he kills like the
The
mountain.
Night King.
He kills the Night King and
Yeah.
he kills fucking the mountain that rides. He kills like Cersei, just like shotguns everyone. He calls everybody a primitive screwhead and just like. Basically, it's the scene when he's like
Yeah.
threatening all the village people with his fucking shotgun. He's
Yeah.
just like, where are you,
That's
primitive
screwheads,
screwhead?
listen up. One of my favorites. That's Army of Darkness is by far one of my favorite movies.
I know. We should totally next Brentford. We should totally go as that. Like you should go as Ash, and I'll go as the car.
As the car. As the Deathmobile.
Yeah.
I actually bought a new Castlevania costume. It's coming in like September or whatever.
Is it?
From 3.
Oh, okay. Is it Trevor?
Yeah, it's Trevor.
You're gonna go as Trevor?
Oh, dude, I want to go as Trevor. I love Trevor Belmont.
I want to go.
He's
as,
like the Ash of the Castlevania series.
I'm gonna go as. Nolan.
You're not gonna dress up.
No, my kid wants to dress up as Green Lantern.
He can do that because like they do have a sci-fi night at the Renaissance Fair.
He wants to dress up as Green Lantern, and my wife's like, "We should all be the Justice League." I was like, "No, I don't like dressing up." We were gonna do Ghostbusters, and
Right.
they X-nayed on that because he wants to be Green Lantern. So whatever. So next podcast we'll argue about which costume
You want to wear as Halloween?
All right.
I'm going as Trevor Belmont.
All right.
All right, it's about 2 hours. Thanks for joining us. Looks like we actually do have a viewer. I wonder if it's Vic. Vic, is that you? He'll respond later. But
All right.
thank you for listening, Vic.
Thanks for our long. Thanks
That's all. We just have to thank Vic.
thanks
He
for
keeps us
listening to our
alive.
long-winded
Yeah.
discussions about Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
and,
that changed to C.S. Lewis and
fucking
Conan,
fucking Tolkien.
and then we talk about Army of Darkness. Anyways.
always come back to Army of Darkness. All right, guys.
So
thanks for listening.
You guys can. Oops. What's going on?
What did you do?
I don't know.
Did you stop it?
You can get us. You can listen or find us on Twitter at Incognitbro and at Chucking Dice. As said before, please share, like, and subscribe, and always leave comments. Anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it. Check out Game of Thrones tonight if you are a watcher, and if you're not, just do it anyways. Don't be one of those jerks that say I don't like Game of Thrones because.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, and in I think about like 10 or 9 days, essentially not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday, a week from this Wednesday, Destiny 2 drops. So I will be streaming Destiny 2.
All right, you can check that out at his YouTube channel is actually below in the description.
If you go into my Twitter also on my profile, I have my YouTube
There's
channel.
a link right there.
Yeah, there's a link for that.
I will not be streaming anything.
Good.
That's my Ron Swanson.
You're not gonna stream the Mega Man.
What, the new collection that came out?
Yeah.
No.
Because those are all games nobody wants to play.
I know. I just like I don't know. Like I'm kind of like tired of streaming. I mean, we did that Friday the 13th, which I was happy to do, but I don't know. Is anyone really interested in watching someone else play video games? I guess.
Oh, maybe new kids.
New kids, I guess.
New kids.
New kids.
All
Is
right.
that what we're gonna call them?
Yeah, the new kids.
Those new kids. All right.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.